So let's get started with images. It's going to make it very beautiful. There are multiple ways how you can use it, and let's give it a go. How we get there, we go here to generate image here on this button. And here we see a few examples of how people got to these kind of artworks by the descriptions that they gave, and you hover over it. For example, here, a sailboat inside a glass paperweight will have generated this image for this person. Now, let's say I have a business in travel, and there's nothing wrong with posting pictures of the Eiffel Tower to get people interested in my travel offers, but you know, all the competition does probably the same thing. So I just wanted to do something different, you know, something that is more exciting, that really stands out and catches the eye. So let's say travel to Europe. And now it's going to give me suggestions already of how I could, what kind of prompt I could use. For example, here from below, fantastic, extreme close-up. I like this, like in the style of Pierre Auguste Renoir and Andy Warhol. I'm just using the existing idea that Microsoft Designer gives me. If that's not for me, of course, I can do something else. I can make it very descriptive, write it in exactly the way I would like to have it. And while we're waiting for Microsoft Designer to come up with the results, it already shows me here a few of other images that are created with the same software. Now it's currently working on it, and now it gives me a few options of traveling in Europe in the style of Pierre Auguste. I think this looks pretty arty and cool, but this is maybe not yet what my audience would like to have. So it doesn't matter. I'm just going to say cancel that. I'm just going to do a different thing. So generate image again, or I can just up it here. I'm going to say, no, I'm just going to say, artistic. I could do maybe art like I did last time, but I could also say realistic. And yeah, 4K. Let's start with this and let's see what it generates. And then based on that, I can adjust it and mold it and sculpt it further. So now it's thinking for me, now it's creating it, but for me, it is artificial intelligence crafting what I've typed in. This looks pretty stunning, I'd say. This is a beautiful picture of the Eiffel Tower with this beautiful dramatic backdrop. I think that looks great. Like for example, here on the right here, I think that's nice. I can select that and continue with that for design as the base for the trip that I would like to sell as a travel agent. It's currently thinking of a few options here on the right. Like you can see, it is thinking out loud. And now it will craft like a few options here for my Instagram post or my Facebook post for my trip to Paris that I would like to sell. Now I can add more special offer trip to Paris. You should have used a capital letter, but oh well. It is now generating this for me, and it will in a moment give me a few options if I wanted to sell this trip to Paris based on this image I generated. Here we have it on the right. I think it looks quite arty with what is generated, a bit dramatic with that air. But I think, for example, something like this looks quite stunning, I'd say. And what I like is that it has already used the font and like this text that really goes well with the background. And it uses the text especially on this darker piece of air so that the white letters come out well. It does it pretty well, that. I think this is already a good base. I can now further sculpt it. Okay, if I, like here on the right, there are a few other options I could pick that are not bad. And I could continue in that way. So in this way, we started off with a generated image, and then from there, we sculpted into a social media post or an Instagram post or whatever size canvas you would like. And there we have it. In minutes, we have a beautiful picture here of the Eiffel Tower with my special offer. Now, let's say I wanted to have it a bit more arty, a bit more extravagant. I just tried a prompt here with mountains in Switzerland, quite dramatic. I think that looks great, but maybe not yet suitable for sales. So now I'm going to make it a bit more pop arty. So I'm just writing hiking in mountains in pop art style. Well, panoramic and vivid, that looks nice. Full view, yeah, that way. I like the suggestions that designer gives you because it gives you inspiration how it could be different, like outside of the ordinary. And look, if you don't like it, it doesn't matter. You can just rerun the same prompt again and then it will give you a new series of images. So you can just be as playful, as imaginative as you want. So now I gave it a pop art style prompt, which is very colorful and very quite intense. It may not be everyone's cup of tea, but this probably catches the eye more than just another stock image or another standard image that already is out there on the web so often. Now I can just use this one, for example. I think this looks quite colorful. I select that. And on that basis, I'm now going to create the social media post like I've shown you before. I would like to take you to a few things around prompt engineering when using images. Prompt engineering is basically what you write here in this thing here. So for example, a business person at a conference, and I'll generate it right away. This is very basic. It's also something that I could just download from a stock imagery website, but it will create it for you based on what you wrote here. This is quite a basic one. You can add more things like 4K, realistic, sharp, blurry, from afar, from close up. And as we can see here, it looks very good already, like this is a business person at a conference. But if you look really closely, if you download it, and I invite you to try it for yourself, if you download it and look really closely, you will notice that it doesn't look exactly like a human person would look like. Because there's something about our human recognition, like where there's something in the eyes, something in the face that when you look really closely, it's like, hey, this is not a real person. So if you want a very close up of a face, you're better off using a stock image from a website. However, when I look at these three examples, I think it already looks pretty good. I'm just going to cancel it just for now for an example, because there's one more thing I would like to show you, and that is a prompt. When like a prompt is basically like a set of text, like a silhouette inside a glass paperweight. Click to try. Now we see this image here, but if I use the same text, it will not generate the same image one-on-one. It will not be exactly the same. So if you found something that you found really beautiful and stunning and want to keep it, just ensure you download it, save it somewhere on your laptop, on your server, so that you can't lose it. Because if you type in the same prompt, it will not generate the same image as it was before. Quite interesting to know. So here we see silver in glass paper white. 3 images. This is different from what I just saw before. Now we go to the very exciting part of prompt engineering. I'm just going to cancel this for the moment. Go back to generate image, and that is it. You can just keep on adding things and things to it, even if it is something that couldn't really exist. For example, I'm going to say people at a laptop in people on a laptop in medieval times, which of course back then laptops didn't exist. So let's see how that go. But now I'm going to add, even in the style of Art Deco, lucid. It just gives me a few ideas here that I can try out. If you want it in a different style, obviously you can definitely try that out. And designer will give you a few ideas here as well, as you see here in the bottom part, like hot air balloons in watercolor. That looks like something that someone could have made, like the gold statue cheeseburger that we saw a second ago is probably a bit unrealistic, but quite funny. So here we see people in medieval times at a laptop. I think it's quite funny in Art Deco style. It depends, of course, on the purpose you have it for. If you want to catch attention on social media, because it's often there's so many things on the socials and hard to get attention, something like this would probably catch people's eyes. So you can use that, and depending, of course, what your purpose is, you can base it off that. So I invite you to start off with a few prompts, try things out that are relevant for your brand or your product that you have, and just keep on adding things. Like the designer will give you a few ideas, like 4K, hyper realistic, in the style of a certain artist, in the style of a certain era back in the past. And based on that, you can come up with new creative ideas so that your post looks really stunning and outstanding on the socials. Try it out for yourself. Download also the resource on prompt engineering. Have a bit of fun with it, and that way you can develop your own style online. I want to create one more example for you just to get the feel for it. So now I'm going to say sailboat style of I gave it a few directions here. So one is kind of art nouveau, you can still style, and one is very detailed. I want it to be colorful. If it is too many prompts, then eventually it will say, oh, that's too much. I can't comprehend that. I mean, after all, it's not a human, it's a machine that needs to balance all the different things you tell them to do. But now, like with the Jugens so detailed art, it gives me a different kind of a sailing boat perspective than if I use a real image. And if I use, for example, this one, I think it looks quite nice, quite outspoken. Maybe it's too much for your brand. Of course, you can downsize a little bit. And now we're going to start with this one, and we're going to generate a post for this sailboat. Generating designs for me, I can add some text here if I like, but here it already comes up with the designs that I could possibly use for it. And there we go, sailing away. Use this design, and then we go into the editor mode, and then we can add a few things, like you can add some text here on the left, and then eventually we'll have a beautiful post about sailing if you sell a sailing holiday. So now I've added some text. We can sailing trip. I can add more details on the cost, departure time, anything I'd like. I think this looks beautiful, but if you're not entirely happy, like all these elements are just changeable if you want to. So you don't have to have it in this background. You can just move them around if you wanted to, and then replace them for other images or for other backgrounds. I would like to show you a few additional things that would really help you with your images. You can create different kind of filters, you can apply different kinds of adjustments to your image, or you can even remove the entire background. Now, as an example, I generated this image for a business lunch. So let's say you wanted to get together with your colleagues in the office over a fun lunch. Everyone brings something and you're having fun having lunch at the office. This image, you can say, okay, here on the filters, I want it not this type, but I want it a bit more punchier. And then it's created like in that way. You see the colors are popping out a bit more. You can make it a bit lighter. You can just use any filter you like. So that already fills it for you in one go, which is good. But if you're like, no, I really want to be very precise in the way I want to have it. So I want to have it, for example, you can up the contrast a little bit. Then it is a bit more outspoken. I want it even more brighter than I had it before. Or I wanted it more saturated colors. I can add that. Or I wanted like more sharper colors, or maybe less, have it more blurry. I mean, this is maybe a bit much, but you can play around with it as many times as you want. Now, if this is like, okay, that was a nice try, but it didn't really work for me, just gonna press restore original, and then it's back to how it was before. So nothing is wasted, nothing is lost. Play around with it a little bit. Now, let's say you want to use this image, but you don't want that blue background. You just want it on a white background, so that you can add it to a white existing piece of paper. That would work well with your, like the template you use for your office, or the email that you want to send out, or just a piece of print. And now click remove background. So now it is transparent. It's not just white, it's transparent. And when I go to download here on the right, of course I don't want it as MP4, I want it as a PNG image, and I want to say click make background transparent. And now you can start generating images here from this view, as I've done before via the generate button. But another way that you could explore is just starting off with a blank canvas. The advantage of that is that you start off with a canvas that is suitable for your needs. If you want it to be like Instagram posts, Facebook ads posts, Instagram stories, You can choose whatever, or even a custom design. You can choose whichever design is suitable for your needs or the design canvas you have in mind. So here I'm just going to start off with the Instagram post. Here we have it. It is loading that. I'm now going to start off with the visuals here on the left. It is still loading my post. I will do so in a second. I'm going to go to visuals, and there I'm going to type in the generate. So here you have generate on top. I'm going to say what I want here on the left. Let's say I have a travel destination for New York. We all know the Statue of Liberty, but we want it in a different way. So let's say Statue of Liberty in the style of Picasso. Give it a bit of a different twist, a bit of a different way to depict that image there. So we're still in the travel mode. So I'm going to generate that here. This may take a few moments to generate. By the way, if this is not really what you wanted out of the generative images, but you want something more artistic, a bit more modest, a bit more suitable to the look and feel of your brand, you can always give it more additions to what you want. Like you can say, I want it really subtle colors, I want it to be very pop art, I want it to be very realistic, I want it in 4K, 8K, whichever way that is suitable for your brand. So I'm just giving you some examples, but of course, play around with the software and see what you get. Now here we have the Statue of Liberty in a Picasso style. Bit different, may not be everyone's cup of tea. I personally like it, so here we have it on the canvas, and I'm going to stretch it out. Now, one thing you need to notice, and this is unfortunately a limitation at this stage, is that the image generation will only generate images in squares. So I can make this image larger to fit the canvas, but it will always be square. So if I have a rectangle size canvas, I may need to have a very large image that I can stretch it so much so that it kind of goes over the entire image, that entire canvas, or I need to have some text or some solid background color with where I will add additional things for my post. Because this is like a square, as you can see here, like a rectangle, and then a square on top of it. So that's just one limitation, but we can work with it. You can, for example, use the color picker and fill it up with a solid color. We'll get to that in a moment, but I just want you to play around a little bit with the image generator, see what works for your brand, and then we take it one step further. Now, one way to overcome the issue that the image is square and the canvas is rectangular is to, like here on the right, we see that there are a few ideas, so you can stretch it out so that it covers the entire canvas. That's one way. The other thing that I could do is just click on background, because now it's white, and white is a bit weird with this quite colorful image. And now I'm going to just fill it up with a solid color. The interesting thing is that it here already on the bottom gives you a few options from the photo or the image that you have there that is kind of matching the style. So you see this darker color, like this gray, that matches it, or maybe the lighter beige color that kind of matches the image as well. That's in the same style. The other way you could do is just use the color picker on the top right. Let's say I'm going to go here for, that's a bit darker. I think for this one, let's try this one. Now I have this image here. I have filled up the bottom bit. If I still want to say, okay, this is not entirely the dimensions I want, I can still stretch the image a bit so that, there we go. Like, okay, I want to fill most of my post with the image, and then on the bottom part, I'm going to add a bit of text about the trip to New York that I would like to sell. So I'm just going to add a heading. Here it is. I'm going to drag it to the bottom. I need to change the color because otherwise it is a black on dark gray. That would not work. So I'm just going to use white, add heading. And what I'm now going to do is just change the text here to whatever I want it to be. Oh, trip to New York. Remove the original text that was already there. And now I just need to center it. Of course, I'm now, there's the purple line that shows me it is exactly in the middle. And now I can add more details here. Whatever I'd like to add that is suitable for my target audience, what I would like to sell it to. Again, if this is not the style of image that you appreciate, you can of course start with something completely different. This is just an example. So play around, see what suits for you. And if there's something that if you don't really find it well, always looking on the right what other ideas that Microsoft Designer gives to you. If you feel like, okay, if this is not the style that I like, it already gives it to you, and all you need to do is just add a few things or change a few things, and there you have it already.